Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. We're going to talk about what's likely to be one of the most important retirement decisions you'll ever make. What should you do with your retirement money, like your 401k, 403b, or similar plan once you leave your job? Many people mistakenly think this is an easy choice, but that's rarely the case. Depending upon your situation, you could have up to six, yeah, I said six different options to choose from. So we'll be discussing each of these six options so you can make the best decision for you and your family. We'll also shed some light on the typical mistakes you can hopefully avoid. If you've yet to attend one of my seminars, then welcome. If this is not your first, then welcome back. I'm Tim Gardner, founder and wealth manager at Chatham Retirement Partners, where we provide wealth management services to the sandwich generation, just without all the baloney. If you're not familiar with the term sandwich generation, these are individuals or couples who are planning to send a child to college, trying to save for their own retirement, and facing the possibility of needing to help a family member or loved one in their later years. I do this specific presentation because over my 3 decades of helping retirees and their families navigate the confusion, I've seen both personally and professionally that planning for retirement can be far less stressful than the horror stories you hear. This gives you the time to enjoy your retirement you've worked so hard for. So, now that you know a little bit more about me, let's talk about the 6 rollover options when you leave your job, depending upon your specific situation. You may be able to leave your employer plan assets with your existing retirement plan. Roll your plan assets to your new company retirement plan. Roll over your plan assets to an IRA. Take a lump sum distribution of your plan balance. Convert your plan assets to a Roth, or make an in-plan Roth conversion of your plan assets. In some cases, you may be able to combine some of these options on the list. For example, you can convert some of your plan assets to a Roth IRA and roll the rest over to a traditional IRA. The first option, and the most straightforward, is to leave your retirement plan funds in your current plan. If you choose to do nothing, you've essentially chosen this option. Of course, there are a number of reasons why you might intentionally leave your money at your plan too. Most of you will have this option available to you. There are few times when the plan will force you to take a distribution. If you're lucky enough to retire early, or you've otherwise left your former employer in the year you turn 55 or later, you can take a penalty-free distribution from your plan sponsored by the company you just left. This is different from the general rule, which says you have to wait until 59 and a half to take a penalty-free distribution. Now, once you've turned 59 and a half or older, that's no longer a concern to you. Similarly, federal, state, and public safety workers may take penalty-free distributions from the plan at age 50 or older. Now, if creditor protection is a significant concern for you, there's another reason it may make sense to keep your money at your current plan. Like most 401k plans, specific plans offer creditor protection under the Employee Retirement Income Security Act. It's a federal law, probably better known as ERISA for short. ERISA offers very strong creditor protection and safeguards covering the funds from the reach of most creditors. On the other hand, though, IRAs, Roth IRAs, and plans that don't receive creditor protection under ERISA receive creditor protection under state law. Thankfully, most states provide these retirement funds with creditor protection that is roughly equivalent to the protection provided by ERISA. But that's not always the case. Remember, You should always be aware of the fees you're paying in your current plan and the difference, if any, of those fees you'll be paying if you move your retirement money. Fees can vary significantly from plan to plan, but in most cases, your plan may offer certain investments at lower costs than you can get elsewhere. A rollover IRA or other retirement account could help lower fees. You simply have to look at these things on a case-by-case basis. And of course, it's essential to consider the value you're receiving in conjunction with the fees you're paying, and not just the fees themselves. Of course, no solution will be perfect, but just leaving your money with your old employer is no exception. There are many reasons this might not make sense for you, some of which you can see here. Okay, so far we've discussed why it might make sense to keep your money in your current plan. However, many people choose to move their plan money elsewhere after they leave their jobs, either to another employer's plan or, more commonly, to an IRA. Before we discuss why that could make sense for you, let's discuss how to move retirement money. In general, you can move retirement money from your plan to another retirement account in two ways. You can either move it indirectly in what's known as a 60-day rollover, or you can move it right from your plan to your new retirement account in what's known as a direct rollover. The direct rollover is generally the best way to move money. Let's discuss why. In an indirect rollover, you receive a distribution from your plan funds. Then you have 60 days from receiving your distribution to get it back into another retirement account. Now, 60 days may seem like a long time, but it can go by in what seems like the blink of an eye. Let's face it, life happens. People get distracted. And if that happens and you miss the 60-day deadline, the distribution is taxable. And depending upon your age, it may be subject to an additional 10% penalty. So even if you're on top of things and you complete the rollover within 60 days, there's another problem with most indirect rollovers. When Congress created the plan distribution rules, they wanted to make sure people didn't just take their money and run. So they created a special rule that requires plans to withhold 20% of taxable distributions that are payable to you when those distributions are eligible for rollover. For instance, let's say you have $100,000 in your plan and you request a distribution for the entire amount. Your plan will send you a check for $80,000 and withhold $20,000 of your balance for federal and income taxes. Now, suppose you take the $80,000 and timely roll it over. Have you completed a full rollover of your plan distribution? No. Even though you only received $80,000 from your plan, $100,000 was distributed. If you want to complete a full rollover and avoid taxes on any of your distribution, you will have to cover the $80,000 you receive and make up $20,000 withheld from your savings. Here's an example. John requests a distribution from his plan on May the 1st. On May the 2nd, the plan sends him a check, and on May the 10th, John receives the check in the mail. From there, John has 60 days from the 10th of May until July the 9th to return his distribution to another retirement account. John has $100,000 in his 401k, requests the distribution of the total amount. John's plan sends him a check for $80,000, then automatically withholds $20,000 for income taxes. If John only rolls over the $80,000 he received from his plan, he will still owe tax on the $20,000 that was automatically withheld by the plan. In order to complete the rollover and avoid any taxes, John must timely roll over the $80,000 he receives. As you can see, indirect rollovers have some real problems. Thankfully, There's generally a better way to move your retirement money, and that's a direct rollover. In a direct rollover, your plan money is sent directly from your plan to your new retirement account. Most importantly, there's no 60-day time limit to worry about, and there's no mandatory 20% withholding. The plan won't offer to send your money right to the new retirement account. However, they have to allow you to make a direct rollover. Typically, this is done by providing you with a check payable to your new custodian. For example, the check might read something like Company X Custodian for benefit of John Smith IRA. If the check is made payable to the new custodian, like this, your distribution can still qualify as a direct rollover and get the same favorable tax treatment. There's no 60-day deadline to worry about, and more importantly, there's no mandatory withholding. That's true even if your plan sends you the check and has you forwarded to your new custodian. Now that we understand the different ways you can move retirement money, let's go back to exploring your rollover options. If you return to work for a new employer offering a retirement plan, you can roll your old plan funds into your new plan. Note that plans do not have to allow rollovers from other plans. So if this appeals to you, be sure to check with your new plan to see if its rules allow this. The reason to roll money to a new employer is generally the same as the reasons you might consider leaving money at your old employer, such as the potential for stronger creditor protection, the possibility of purchasing life insurance, the possibility of lower fees. Now, if this sounds like a lot of maybes to you, it is. When it comes to plans, the tax code is far more liberal than the plan rules. As mentioned before, it varies from plan to plan. In addition to the benefits, there are a few other reasons you might roll your old plan funds into a new plan. One reason is if you need to take a loan from your retirement plan. In some cases, you can take a loan of up to $50,000 from your employer's plan. In contrast, you cannot take a loan from an IRA. That's what's known as a prohibited transaction, and it comes with some very scary tax consequences. If you had $1 million in an IRA and borrowed just $1, your entire $1 million would be considered distributed and fully taxable. Another reason this could make sense is if you want to use your retirement money to purchase life insurance, and your new plan allows it. To be clear, this is where you purchase life insurance while your money is still inside your plan. Life insurance is a prohibited transaction or prohibited investment in an IRA, so you cannot roll insurance over to an IRA. Probably a more practical reason you may roll money from an old employer plan into a new plan is simply to consolidate accounts. Many people try to simplify their lives as they get closer to retirement. Rolling over money from your old plan to a new plan means one less account statement to keep track of, one less beneficiary form to keep up to date, and one less account to make sure the appropriate RMDs have been taken from. Well, you get the point. Once again, this strategy is not for everyone. Since this is very similar to our first option, you'll notice that many of the potential disadvantages are the same as those on the slide I showed earlier. The third option you have is when you leave your plan, and one option that must be available to you is to roll over to an IRA. Many prefer this option when they leave their employer for various reasons. You can roll over your funds to an existing IRA if you want, or alternatively, if you don't already have an IRA and would like to move your funds to a new account, you can open a new IRA and roll your plan funds there. The common reason people choose to roll their plan funds to an IRA is to broaden their choice of investment options. Many plans restrict participants to a dozen or so choices. You may have experienced this in your own plan. While the investments offered by your plan may be sufficient for your needs, many retirement savers prefer to expand their investment options by rolling their funds to an IRA. Once inside the IRA, there are very few restrictions on what you can invest in. While your particular custodian may be limiting, the tax code allows IRAs to invest in anything with the exception of life insurance, collectibles, and S corporation stock. Another common reason many retirees roll their plan funds to an IRA is to consolidate their retirement savings. A study released by the Department of Labor reported that baby boomers born between 1950 and 1964 held on average a staggering 11.3 jobs between the ages of 18 and 46. Sure, it's unlikely that you'll have 11 different employer plans. You indeed could have participated in 2, 3, or more plans throughout your working career. An IRA can be a convenient collection point for these plans, leaving you with fewer accounts to keep track of. IRAs sometimes offer more attractive withdrawal options than plans. With an IRA, you can generally request a distribution whenever you want one. If you leave your money in your old company plan or roll it over to a new company's plan, you're stuck with the plan rules. Your company plan might be flexible, but then again, it might not. Another big difference between company plans and an IRA is on the withdrawal end. That is where there's no mandatory 20% withholding on an IRA. With IRAs, you can elect to withhold 10% of your distribution for federal income taxes, any amount more than 10%, or if you want to, you can opt out of federal withholding altogether and have none of your IRA distributions withheld for taxes. Another nice thing about IRAs is that if you have more than one of them, you can calculate your RMDs for each account, but take it from just one. So, for instance, if you have one account that you really like, or that's earning a high rate of return, and you want to leave it alone, you can have another account you're less happy with. You can take the RMDs from both IRAs or just one, and it doesn't matter how much. That's not the case for most retirement plans. In general, each plan's RMD must be calculated and distributed separately. There is an exception to the rule, however, if you have multiple 403Bs. Here's an example of how it might work. Suppose John has 3 IRAs and his RMDs from the 3 accounts are $5,000, $3,000, and $2,000 respectively. That's a total of $10,000 that must be withdrawn. John can take $10,000 from any one IRA or a combination of his IRAs. Jane, on the other hand, has 3 401ks. Her RMDs for the 3 accounts have been calculated, and they are $5,000, $3,000, and $2,000. That's a total, just like John, of $10,000. The difference, however, is that to avoid penalties, Jane must take at least $5,000 from her first 401k, $3,000 from her second 401k, and at least $2,000 from her third 401k. She cannot combine RMDs and take them from just one account, just like John can. Rolling over your plan funds to an IRA can also provide estate planning benefits, such as making it easier for beneficiaries after you're gone by consolidating accounts. On the other hand, in some cases, rolling your money to an IRA can be beneficial for an opposite reason. Doing so may allow you to split your accounts into multiple accounts, each left to a different beneficiary. That may be helpful in situations like the ones you see here. Some plans may not accept particular beneficiaries, such as trusts. They may also not allow you to use customized beneficiary forms or allow your beneficiaries to utilize specific strategies, such as disclaimer planning. Rolling your plan funds over to an IRA for these options can resolve this issue. Finally, we come to the last point, preserving the stretch IRA. This is incredibly important. Rolling your plan money over to an IRA has several potential benefits. These may include a broader array of investment options, more flexible distribution options, RMD aggregation across multiple IRAs, more estate planning flexibility, and more straightforward process for beneficiaries to preserve the stretch IRA. Really, when it comes down to it, all these things can be summed up in just one word, and that's control. In general, an IRA gives you more of it. But they're not perfect. And as you can see here, this move could have some downside implications. Let's move on now to our fourth option, simply taking the money out of your plan. This is often referred to as cashing out your plan. Generally is not a great idea because you'll have to add the distribution to your income tax for the year. You could also lose potential tax deferral on those funds. Remember, while your money grows inside a retirement account, you don't have to pay tax on the interest, the dividends, or the capital gains. Despite some compelling reasons like these, an alarming number of people still cash out their plan balances after they leave their employer. I said generally, it's not a good idea to cash out your plan, but that's not always the case. If you're lucky enough to have some proper circumstances, cashing out your plan might make a lot of sense. That's because there are a number of tax breaks, like the tax break for net unrealized appreciation, that can offer significant tax savings. Before discussing these strategies, though, let me first explain a lump sum distribution. A lump sum distribution from a company plan means your entire plan balance is paid to you in 1 year. Your account balance must be zero by the end of the year. If not, it's not a lump sum distribution, and you won't be able to utilize the special lump sum distribution tax breaks. To be clear, the year here is a calendar year, not a 365-day year. Your distribution also has to take place after what's known as a triggering event. There are 4 triggering events outlined in the tax code, and they are death, which really doesn't help you out much, but it could allow your plan beneficiaries to take advantage of the special tax breaks we're going to discuss. Reaching age 59 and a half. Separation from service, meaning you've retired, resigned, or otherwise left your former employer. Note that this triggering event is not available to self-employed persons. Sorry, you can't fire yourself to make this work. Or if you're self-employed, however, disability is a triggering event. The definition of disability here is pretty restrictive, so just be careful. Okay, now that we understand a lump sum distribution, let's discuss strategies. We'll start with NUA, since it's probably the most common. Sometimes company retirement plans such as 401ks allow you to invest your retirement money in your employer's stock. If you work for ABC Corp, your ABC Corp 401k might offer ABC Corp stock as an investment option. If you decide to make such an investment, any gain on those shares inside the plan is known as net unrealized appreciation, or NUA, and is eligible for a special NUA tax break. At its heart, NUA strategy is a tax move that allows you to trade ordinary income taxes that you'd usually pay on a retirement account distribution for a long-term capital gains tax. Given today's tax rate, this can save you up to 20%. So, how exactly does NUA work? There are 3 essential rules that must be met, and we've already discussed 2 of them. The first rule is that everything must come out of your plan in one calendar year. And the second is that the distribution must occur after a triggering event. The final requirement is that your shares of company stock must be distributed in kind to a taxable account, such as an individual or joint account. They are not rolled over to another IRA. That's a common mistake, and if you do that, you've irrevocably lost the ability to make an NUA transaction. Now, NUA is a pretty powerful strategy. As you can see, it's also somewhat complicated. You'll probably not remember all the rules we discussed, but that's okay. If you take away anything from this part of the presentation that you need to explore NUA further, then you'll still be way ahead of most people. If you're still not sure if this applies to you, let me simplify things by asking you two quick questions. First, do you have company stock in your retirement plan? If the answer is no, NUA probably is not something you need to be concerned with. The second, has the company stock you purchased inside your plan significantly appreciated or increased in value since you bought it? If the answer is no, then again, you're probably not a good candidate for NUA. If, however, the answer to both questions is yes, NUA is something you need to consider seriously as a part of your planning. As a part of that, I strongly urge you to consult with your tax advisor and your financial advisor that specialize in this area. It's rare that company stock will be the only asset in your plan, and if that's the case, there's additional planning concerns that should be addressed. Other special tax breaks are available for lump sum distributions too, such as 10-year averaging and pre-1974 capital gains elections. These are still lump sum distribution planning strategies. The everything out in 1 year rule applies. I'm not spending too much time on these because they really don't apply to all that many people anymore, but I do want to let you know they exist, just in case one or both of them could benefit you. Your takeaway here is that if you're eligible to take a lump sum distribution from your plan and you were born before 1936, or if you had money in your plan on December 31st of 1973, you may qualify for some additional tax breaks. Before making the rollover decision, you should be sure to explore them. And of course, while these strategies can be extremely powerful, in some situations, they're not for everyone. Here's some reasons why this might not make sense for you. Okay, it's time to move on and talk about our fifth rollover option, a Roth IRA conversion. While this is certainly not going to be the best option for everyone, it's an option everyone has and should consider. In a Roth IRA conversion, funds go from your plan to a Roth IRA. Now, it's very important to understand that this is a taxable event, meaning the amount you convert will be added to your tax return for the year. For example, let's just say Jane has $100,000 in her traditional 401k and would like to convert it to a Roth IRA. We'll talk more about why she might do that in a moment. If Jane moves forward with her Roth IRA conversion, she converts $100,000 of her plan balance. She'll have to add $100,000 of income for her tax return for the year, which will be taxable at whatever rate Jane happens to be at. Because this is a taxable event, it's always best to discuss this option with your tax and financial advisors beforehand. At some point, you've probably heard that you should never pay taxes before you have to. That's a very traditional way of thinking about it. And while it may hold for you in many cases, there are a number of reasons why you might consider a Roth. First and foremost is the potential for future tax-free distributions from your Roth IRA. If you're over 59 and a half and have had the Roth for more than 5 years, all distributions from your Roth IRAs will be tax-free. If you're over 59 and a half but haven't had the Roth for 5 years, you can still take out any of your converted amount tax-free at any time. If you're younger than 59 and a half, there are other rules that apply to you. For instance, suppose that Jane is 60 and she converts $100,000 to her Roth, which grows to $300,000 by the time that Jane is 70. If Jane wants to, she can take the entire distribution, $300,000, and it will be tax and penalty free. If Jane had needed the money, say, when she was 63, instead of, say, 5 years within opening the first account, she could have a distribution of up to $100,000, tax and penalty free. The potential tax-free nature of a Roth IRA may also provide you with additional benefits, such as a hedge against rising tax rates in the future. When it comes to your retirement, there's a lot of unknowns. What will the markets do? What will inflation be like? What will your tax rate be? That last, taxes, is a significant concern for many retirees. A Roth IRA conversion can help manage that risk by paying taxes at today's known rates. If tax rates rise in the future, the tax-free distributions from a Roth IRA will be even more of a benefit to you. Of course, if you think tax rates will be lower in retirement, then that would indicate that maybe this strategy is not suitable for you. Also, since Roth IRA distributions in retirement are generally tax-free, they typically don't impact other things tied to your income. For instance, unlike supposedly tax-free municipal bond interest, tax-free Roth distributions are not included in the calculation for determining how much Social Security income taxes. Another big benefit of a Roth IRA, and one that many retirees find attractive, is that Roth IRAs have no required minimum distributions during your lifetime. So, during your retirement, you can take as much or as little as you want. You're not forced to take anything at 73 or 75 if you don't want to, like with your traditional IRAs or employer plans. That means your Roth IRA can continue to grow and compound tax-free for your heirs. That makes the Roth IRA a very intriguing vehicle for an estate planning perspective. Speaking of your beneficiaries, non-spouse beneficiaries, like children, do have RMDs from inherited Roth IRA accounts, but those distributions will generally be tax-free as well. Remember our stretch IRA example earlier? Now imagine if all that was tax-free. We've come to our sixth and final option, an in-plan Roth conversion. This is a relatively new option and probably not available to all of you, but you should be aware of it just in case it is. An in-plan Roth conversion is similar to a Roth IRA conversion in that you take pre-tax money, pay tax on it, and then have it in an account that grows potentially tax-free for your future use in retirement. The difference here is that the conversion is made from the traditional side of your company plan to the Roth side of your plan. For example, if you have a 401k that allows in-plan conversions, converted funds would go into your Roth 401k account, not your Roth IRA. From a tax perspective, the impact on your tax return from a Roth IRA conversion and an in-plan Roth conversion are the same. You have to add the amount you converted to your income for that year. And if you meet specific guidelines, future distributions in retirement will be tax-free. So, if you decide to make an in-plan Roth conversion after you retire, you're making two choices. First, you decide that a Roth conversion makes sense for your long-term tax planning. We've already discussed why that might be. And second, you decided you'd be better off keeping your money in your plan than moving it to a Roth IRA. If both of these statements are false, One of the other 5 options discussed today is probably better for you. There are also some distinct disadvantages of the in-plan Roth conversions compared to a Roth IRA conversion. If some of these are important to you, you may be better off converting to a Roth IRA instead of an in-plan Roth conversion. Compared to a Roth IRA conversion, the biggest drawback of the in-plan conversion is that there's no way to recharacterize the conversion. So, if your tax bill is higher than you expected, or you've changed your mind, too bad. You're stuck with the in-plan conversion and the resulting tax bill that comes with it. Another significant disadvantage of an in-plan Roth conversion is that even after the conversion, minimum distributions are generally still required. So once you reach 73 or 75, or you were 72 or older at the end of 22, you should already be taking your RMDs from your IRA. For those who are still younger than 72 at the end of 2022, you'll start taking your RMDs when you reach 73 or 75, depending upon when you were born. For those who were born between 51 and 59, you'll start taking RMDs at 73. And for those of us who were born 1960 or later, we'll start taking our RMDs when we reach 75. One major reason people consider Roth conversions is to avoid RMDs and to allow their money to compound tax-free throughout their lives. That's generally not the case with an in-plan Roth conversion. So if avoiding RMDs is important to you, a Roth IRA conversion may be the better solution for you. This strategy is not for everyone, and it has some unique sets of drawbacks. As you've probably realized by this point, deciding what to do with your money you've accumulated in your employer plan is a bit more complicated than most people realize. Let's face it, your retirement plan assets likely represent years and possibly a lifetime's worth of savings. Now is the time to protect and preserve those hard-earned assets, starting with making the right decision for your rollover. Few retirees are aware of all the potential options. Fewer are aware of all the key issues surrounding these options. So you're already ahead of the game. Hopefully, I've helped answer some of the questions for you, but chances are you still have others, and that's okay. Feel free to like or subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on LinkedIn, or use the link to my calendar to set a time to chat specifically about your situation.